So we already know what triads are. Now we're going to start rearranging them in different ways. So if the third of the triad is the lowest sounding note, we say it's in first inversion. And this is because we've inverted it one time. So if we take the root, see here we have our C major triad and our root is C. And if we take that root and move it up an octave, so now your C's up here, and now the third becomes the lowest speaking note, we say this is first inversion. And we can do this with any triad of any quality in any key. So just like over here with our F major triad, if we invert it one time by taking that F from the bottom, moving it up an octave, now the third is the lowest speaking note, we're in first inversion. And oftentimes in music, we're going to see our triads spelt out in different ways, and they're not going to look all neat and tidy like this. But if the third is the lowest sounding note, we'll know that it's in first inversion. So here's an example of what that C major root position triad sounds like. And here it is in first inversion. Again, here's the root position in the first inversion. And here's the root position F major triad. And again in first inversion. Again, here's our F major root position. And here it is in first inversion. When we label our first inversion triads with Roman numerals, first we start off with our labeling just like with root position triads. And then to signify that we're in first inversion, we're going to put this little 6 next to the Roman numeral. And the reason why it's a 6 is because the distance from the lowest speaking note, the third in this case, to the root is a 6. When we look at chord symbols, right, so your chord symbol for your root position triad, in this case we have a C major triad, so we've got our capital C. And then when we want to signify that it's inverted, we label the kind of chord it is, so there's the C major. Then we put the slash, and then the note underneath the slash is going to be the lowest sounding note. So in this case it's an E. Right, just like over here with our F major triad. This is an F major triad right here, and then we put the slash and the name of the lowest sounding note, which in this case is an A. Second inversion is very similar to first inversion, although now we've inverted our triad twice, which leaves the G, or the fifth here, as the lowest speaking note. So if we've got our C major triad or root position, then you take the C and you invert it by moving it up an octave, and then you take that E and you move that one up an octave. Now you've got the G, or the fifth here, as the lowest speaking note. And just like with our first inversion, you're going to see this with all different types of triads, different qualities and different keys. But we'll know it's in second inversion if the fifth is the lowest sounding note. So here is our root position C major triad. Here it is in second inversion. Again, here's the root. Here's second. Here's the root position F major. Here's second inversion. Here's the root. Here's second. When labeling second inversions with Roman numerals, it's the same method as with the first inversion. So first you start out with writing a Roman numeral just like with root position, and then we put a 6-4 next to it to signify it's in second inversion. And the reason for the 6-4 is you count from your lowest speaking note to the highest, and that's a 6th, and from the lowest to the next note is a 4th. All right, so from this G to the E is a 6th, from the G to the C is a 4th. When we're labeling with chord symbols, again, just like with the first inversion, first you label with the kind of chord it is. So this is a C major triad. Then we have the slash to show it's inverted. And then we have the name of the lowest sounding note. So in this case, it's a G. Just like over here with the F major triad, we have the F to show it's F major. And we have the slash for the inversion and the name of the lowest sounding note, a C. We can also invert 5/7 chords. And because these chords have 4 notes, we can invert them 3 times. So here's the sound of the root position. First inversion, second inversion, third inversion. And going back down, here's second, first, root. Again, root, first, second, third. When labeling 5/7 chords, we use the same kind of system that we did with the triads. So if you're looking at Roman numerals, first you start off with your Roman numeral, and in root position we put a 7 here to symbolize that this triad has the 7th included. Or I should say this chord has the 7th. When we go to first inversion, we label it 6/5, and that's because the distance between the third here and the root is a 1/6, and then you've got a 5th between the 7th and the third. And the third right here between this E and the G is implied, so we don't need to label that one. It's just easier and more shorthand if we leave off that number 3. When going to second inversion, we label it 4/3. And again, it's the same system. From the G to the C here, we have a 4th. From the G to the B flat, you have a 3rd. And you can see that there's a 6th between the G and the E here. And we leave that one off because it's implied. And in third inversion, we've got 4/2. Again, we left off the 6th. And we just label the 4th and the 2nd. And notice how when I'm labeling these numbers, I'm always counting from the lowest speaking note. Okay, if we look at our chord symbols, just like with the triads, you start with what kind of chord it is. And then we're going to put a 7 here to signify it's a 7 chord. So this is a C7 in root position. And when we want to add our inversion, then we put a slash. And then you put the name of the lowest sounding note under the slash. So then in this case, we've got our C7 with E as the lowest sounding note. Right, in second inversion, you've got a C7 with G as the lowest sounding note. And in third inversion, you've got C7 with a B flat as the lowest sounding note. So what's the purpose of inverting chords anyway? So the reason why we use inversions is to make a more fluid chord progression. So here is an example. We're starting off in the key of F major. So here's our tonic triad, going to a 4, to a 1, to 5, back to 1. And we've inverted the 4 to second inversion, and the 5 to first inversion to make it flow more smoothly. So you can see how there's very little movement in between these notes, right? Like the F here between 1 and 4 stays in the same place. And again, back to 1 in the same place. And then between 1 and 5, the A is staying in the same place, and again, staying the same. And then this has only a little bit of stepwise motion, moving those two up one step and then down another step. And the same thing, these ones move down one step and then back up one step. And we can use that when you want a very smooth sounding chord progression. So here's what this chord progression sounds like with the inversions. And here's what it sounds like with all root position. So you can hear when it's all in root position, it jumps around a lot. Again, here is the example with the inversions.